So I just saw Disney's Wish, their 100th anniversary film, and I thought it was pretty okay to say the least. Disney announced that when it came to their 100th anniversary film, they were gonna go really hard into this movie and do something special. They were gonna go back to traditional 2D animation. In reality, that's not really the case, to be honest, and I'll go into that more. Disney movies typically have been kind of mid lately. There hasn't been really any good standout movies. Pretty much in the last 5 to 10 years, a lot of the original Disney animated movies have just been about like 6 out of 10s, 5 out of 10s, 7 out of 10s, so, you know, they have a lot to prove. When looking at this movie, I thought to myself, well, this is going to be Disney's chance to really show if they still have that magic. And to be perfectly honest, I really do believe that Disney has lost it. But that's not to say this movie wasn't bad, it's just pretty okay, when Disney used to be amazing, if not almost perfect. Starting off, the art style and the animation of this movie was pretty jarring to me. They said they were going back to 2D traditional animation, and while that is true, the art style was 2D, the animation was still CG, so it kind of felt jarring to see the clash of these two styles. If you freeze frame it, the movie will probably look really good, but once you see that they start moving, you'll realize like, oh, this isn't really like 2D animation, this is more like 2D art style. It's pretty fine, but like I said, pretty jarring. I'm not really a big fan of this, and I really hope that Disney doesn't do this ever again. All the characters were pretty okay. Asha is the main character, and I thought she was pretty bland and nothing really about her was special. She goes for the whole quirky girl who is courageous and believes in the power of friendship, and yeah, that's pretty much her entire character. The king, however, did a pretty good job, but even then, it still could have been a lot better. I really could tell that Chris Pines tried his very best with this role, but there are some things I would have liked more. The other characters in this movie, they really do not matter, and I will get to that in a moment. The plot of this movie is basically that Asha wants to be an apprentice of the king so that she could eventually have her wish granted, which is really her grandfather to have his wish granted. Eventually, she learns that not every wish can be granted, and there's going to be some consequences with that, so that's all I'm going to say. As far as the theme of this movie, this really was so cookie cutter and basic. This movie was basically don't give up on your dreams. That's the best way I could explain the theme of this movie. Like, there wasn't anything I could say that this movie was about, except just follow your dreams and continue to make wishes and never give up. I really wish I had more to say about that. The setting of this movie also really wasn't anything interesting or to really write home about. It was very basic, and nothing really in the world will stand out and will really be memorable or catch your eye. It pretty much boils down to there's the kingdom, the main character's house, the forest, and a river. That's it. The editing also was pretty decent at times. There were some moments that really popped with all the colors and the art style, but really that goes hand in hand with the animation, like I mentioned before. It's just that it was fine, but kind of jarring at times. As far as the music goes, it's very divisive. On one hand, I actually came out of the theater really liking the music. It was really catchy, and I really found myself like actually remembering the beats and the tunes and whatnot. But after doing some research, I learned that this music was made by people who make music for pop star celebrities. Oh, look, my cat's here. Hi, cat. But yeah, basically the music was made by people who make music for pop stars and celebrities like Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber. So they didn't really have anyone making music that was like traditional musical theater, you know, in that kind of style. So that kind of sucked now that I think about it. It's like this is their 100th anniversary movie and they didn't get people to make theatrical, you know, style theater music. Like, why? Why not? This is your 100th anniversary movie. So as of right now, this movie was pretty much just an okay movie. Funny enough, it was actually better than most movies that Disney has made, but only by a little bit. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of recent Disney movies have really just been like 6 and 7s out of 10s, and for this movie, I'm pretty much giving it a 7 out of 10. It's a little bit better than most of what Disney has been making recently, but I can see myself not liking it as well the more I think about it, because of the reasons I'm about to talk about right now. So this movie, being the 100th anniversary movie, basically wanted to pull a Disney cinematic universe, or Kingdom Hearts in a way, and they wanted to make this movie connect to other movies that Disney has made in the past 100 years. I mentioned earlier that other characters in this movies really didn't matter, and that's because they really didn't, and they're not original at all. Asha's friends are basically references of the Seven Dwarfs. Also, Asha had a dad which passed away, so, you know, generic cliche there. And she has her mother and her grandfather that she lives with. And the grandpa is turning 100 in this movie, so that's pretty funny. And for his 100th birthday, he was hoping to get a wish by the king, but the king said nah, because it might be too evil and because it's vague. Also, if you didn't know, the king doesn't grant everyone's wish because he's worried that people's wishes might be too greedy or they might lead to chaos, which in a way is understandable. There was a time where people brought up questions about taking back their wish or changing it because people change over time, but that doesn't really get an answer. It's not really important, but I was kind of questioning that myself, like, why can't you just take your wish back? Because really, the whole thing is if you make a wish to the king, he takes the memory of the wish away because he has the power of wishes. And I pretty much don't need to tell you what happens. The main character beats the villain, but the way she did it was also pretty cliche and by the books when it comes to Disney. She just sings and uses the power of friendship, and also Sora, Donald, and Goofy come out and try to help her beat the boss. It was actually pretty... My cats are fighting. But yeah, basically, Sora came in and had to help Asha save the day and imprison the king inside of mirror dimension, and he basically becomes the mirror on the wall. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then also everyone started referencing other Disney movies, and I was like, oh look, it's a moment to point at the screen and say, oh look, like Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Then I thought it was pretty cool during the credits that as the credits were rolling, there was a art style, there was like a drawing of every Disney original movie that they've made that was animated. And, you know, that got me a little happy because, you know, memories and, you know, nostalgia. So I actually forgot to mention this. It's actually kind of funny, and it really just goes to show about this movie. I forgot to mention that there's a talking goat in this movie because every Disney movie needs to have a talking animal side character. And I kid you not when I say this, he literally added nothing to the story and made very, very bad jokes that I did not laugh at one single time. This character is very forgettable. This character is very forgettable, and if he was taken out of the movie, nothing would change at all. I do not know why Disney did this. I mean, I know why they did it. I mean, it's the same thing with the Wishing Star character that Asha has to help become a real star. Though these characters are just very forgettable, even though the star character is important to the story, I will say, but still, the goat, he is not the goat. He is very forgettable, and he should not have been in this movie. The star character was important to the plot. And yeah, that's about it. Just wanted to finish up and say that because I forgot to mention this in my original recording. Except I'm not really done. There's one more thing I wanted to mention. King Magnifico as a character really wasn't that great. The reason why I say this is because that throughout the first half of the movie, it seemed like this guy had a decent idea of what he was trying to do, and he had like a reason for what he did. But then it seemed like at the second half of the movie, it seemed like he just said, nah, screw it. And he easily was manipulated to resulting to like this cursed book that gave him evil powers, and he was easily manipulated. It seemed like the first half of the movie he seemed like a good character, but the second half he turned into just a simple basic two-dimensional character, one-dimensional if anything. It's just like it kind of was just weird how he turned into this, but you know, whatever. Also, it kind of sucked that throughout this entire movie that there really wasn't any adventure that was, you know, taking place. It seemed like I mentioned before, everything just took place inside this kingdom, and that was really it. So overall, like I said, yeah, this movie's pretty much fine. It's just okay. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. It's not really anything that you really should see because it's very generic and very, very safe. It doesn't do anything special, and I really wish this wasn't Disney's 100th anniversary movie. I really wish they would have just released this movie on the side and made an actual original, really 2D hand-drawn movie. But we're probably never going to get those again because that's really hard, even though they made a movie called Once Upon a Time in a Studio or whatever it's called. They made that movie, but, you know, we can't have that for an original movie. Here's to another 100 years of Disney. Disney, please go back to your old ways of telling a good story. Please. Also, the fact that you didn't reference Sora in the end credits was pretty bad, so yeah, that alone should get you a 0 out of 10, but you know, Sora did show up in the movie, so that was pretty fun. So yeah, overall, pretty fine. Not really anything, you know, much more to say. If you did like this video, please like and subscribe, and if you'd like to see me gaming over on Twitch, you can follow me on Twitch, James Entertainment. The links will be in the description below. Have a good one. Oh, and if you do subscribe to this channel, I'll let 2 of your family members go free.